I got four of a kind on everything. I gotta live like a king. Hey, catch this rhythm. You feel that? That's called playerism. I'm on the scene, a player clean, poker face, four queens. I got four of a kind on everything. Dig this, living elite. I don't feel complete without kicking at my feet in a Rolls Royce every week. Maybe this is deep. Listen close when I speak. I need to at least, cause I'm too much. Got two nuts and give zero fucks. I've been player too long for you to tell me having two women is too wrong. The way I get my groove on. If I can't have two, then I gotta move on. Even my car is two-tone. So when I roam, I gotta bring two home. Quit banging my line, ho. Quit banging my line, ho. When you see me act like you don't even know me, ho. When you see me act like you don't even know me, ho.
Understand what we're doing here. Like William, for example, was at the last conference. Brandon,
Come on, baby, get a clue. How you do what you do? How do you fall in love with me, but I'm not in love with you? Quit banging my...
peace to the saints.
Peace to the saints.
Peace to the saints. Today we are back with trending news, a favorite segment of some of our more intelligent guests, or I guess audience. And I thank you all for supporting the work with your super chats, PayPal, and Cash Apps. It really does mean a lot. And most importantly, it lets me know which segments I should continue doing. This one we had actually stopped doing because people weren't supporting it. And by popular demand, we've brought it back. Shout out to Balma Cody, who comes in with tuition. Truly appreciate it. And we have a lot going on in the news today. And it's funny because, just 2 days ago, I was thinking, there's not much of interest going on. It's just a bunch of sports scores. This guy writes, "In words are wilding out." Let's try not to use that word when we can, not use it. When you're writing, you have a little bit more time to think. I can understand if you get carried away by the spirit while you're speaking. Keyshawn writes, "Left my girlfriend and have been feeling better than ever." That's good to hear. He writes, "Also, I missed the meeting yesterday, but I'll be at the next one." He's referring to the members only meetings, the first Monday of every month. Shout out to Saint Isaiah who organizes those. If you remember at patreon.com/the Saint and the Sinner or any of the member websites, you have access to that first Monday of every month. What do we have in the news today? Well, I have one particular piece of news, and I think that, you might say, Marquett, well, why are you bringing this up? There are other pieces of news that you're not bringing up. Why this one? I think this one's really interesting because it teaches us a lot about, how we should manage our women, your wife, your mother, your daughter. And it gives women some indication of what happens if you don't abide by the appropriate unwritten rules of human society. And though we may be human beings, we are at the end of the day animals. This first piece of news, the headline is "Body Identified as Tennessee Teacher Abducted While Jogging. Suspect charged with murder. It's murder." Anyways, so why is that an interesting one to go through? Well, a couple different reasons, Saints. Number one, it turns out she's not just a teacher. She's also an heiress, which is to say she is heir to great wealth created by a man. Shocker, I know. And she was abducted while jogging. And this is one of those situations where you're not necessarily doing the wrong thing, but something bad happened to you. And you might say, well, yeah, Marquett, I mean, a young lady can't go out on a jog? Not by herself? No. So strike one for me is, why were you jogging by yourself? Generally speaking, it is best that a female not be out in the public alone. She should either be with another adult female, or she should be escorted by a man, her father, her brother, or some other male of blood relation, first cousin or closer. But she shouldn't just be out dolo. or she should be with other adult females. I'm not saying she brought this on to herself. I'm not saying she was running around with a t-shirt that said, kidnap me. No, I'm not saying that, but I am saying that these things can be prevented, and we have to stop acting as though we live in a perfect world. It's far from it. Human beings are animals and will always misbehave, especially the wicked among us, of which there are many. In fact, I even venture to say a great majority of humankind might be wicked. Here's the article. The body of a Tennessee teacher who authorities say was abducted while jogging was found Monday after a search that spanned multiple days, police said Tuesday morning. Now, there was a search. One thing I always wonder about, with regards to taxpayer dollars is like, damn, like, should we really be investing taxpayer dollars on a search? I mean, if you find her, you find her, but should we be searching for her? Like, I feel like the police should have better things to do. Low key. Anyways, but that's up for debate. So anyways, she was found after the search. Memphis police announced the body found in South Memphis was identified as Eliza Fletcher. I don't know why they're giving her a goddamn nickname like it matters. It doesn't matter. She's out of here. Anyways, Eliza Fletcher, a 34-year-old woman who police say was abducted Friday. Now, my first thought is, was she victim of sexual assault? If you watch Forensic Files, and I listen to all the episodes while I'm working, often you rarely have just like a plain old kidnapping without the sexual assault. Usually these guys for sure want to get their assault on, and then it usually ends in murder. So my guess is that there was a sexual assault. Let's see. The identification comes on the heels of the arrest of Cleotha Abston, age 38. My first name is Cleotha. Who in the hell is named Cleotha? That is a curious name. I would think that's Southern. It sounds Southern. Cleotha, you left the door open to the outhouse, boy. Cleotha, grab that goddamn. It just seems like a name you would name a child when you're an ignorant black hillbilly, or maybe even a white hillbilly, but definitely a hillbilly. Anyways, so Cleotha Abston, age 38, who was initially charged Sunday, was especially aggravated with especially aggregate. Good Lord, pray for me. Oh man, I think after just doing the hillbilly imitation, it just I became a hillbilly. I can't speak English now. Cleotha Abston, age 38, who was initially charged Sunday with especially aggravated kidnapping in connection to Fletcher's disappearance. Well, one thing I would have liked to have known is, how'd you identify Cleotha? This article is not well written. We find that this is very common. You would think that they would write it in a linear way. Anyways, Abston faces additional charges of first-degree murder and first-degree murder in perpetration of kidnapping. Man, our legal system is so contrived. Good Lord. Let's just go with the big one. Like he murder. Okay. We don't need all these just murder. He killed somebody. I mean, that should be good enough to put you away forever. Presuming that there was good reason to murder. I highly doubt that she was doing anything that was a proper cause of murder. Abston's arrest on Sunday came after the Memphis Police Department said DNA found on a pair of Champion brand slides found in the street linked him to her. Now, this is what I find to be strange. Number one, when I'm doing athletic activities, and I would consider kidnapping an athletic pursuit, not that I'm like kidnapping chicks as a part of a sport, like it's a new sport called Kidnap a Bitch. I came first place in Kidnap a Bitch. Look, when I'm doing athletic activities, things that require strength, precision, running, agility, I like to wear sneakers. You hear me? And tie them up tight, choke them out. But I'm not about to wear some slides while I'm kidnapping women. So I don't know where he went to kidnapping school, but apparently it was amateur hour. So this black hillbilly then kidnapped this white lady while wearing slides. And for some reason, he ends up losing a slide or two during the kidnapping. And apparently he had some DNA on the slides. Now, I would have appreciated if they would have identified the type of DNA on the slides, because I think our first instinct is like he didn't left semen on the slides. I'm like, why did this man got nut on his slides? It's strange. But maybe it was just like some skin cells or something on the slides. Anyways, so he's wearing a pair of Champion slides. This boy kidnapping in slides. And it says, what's the latest in the case? Police on Monday announced that they found a body near the area. Why are they rewriting this? It's so strange. They discovered the body at 5 p.m. in a residential area roughly 5 miles from the University of Memphis campus. Wow, in a residential area? Did he like hide it? They just act like the body was out at the corner next to a stop sign and a kid selling lemonade. I'd be a little bit more curious. Let's see. Who is Eliza Fletcher? They showing a photo of her. She's not the best looking woman. And anytime I hear about a woman being kidnapped and being victim of, sex crimes, I always think like, man, like make it worth it. Like y'all, you can't just be kidnapping and doing this to random chicks. I mean, good Lord, nobody's safe. You heard me? Like the ugly women got to hide too. It's bad out here. So here we go. Who was Eliza Fletcher? Fletcher's abduction last week set off a large-scale search involving local, state, and federal authorities. Well, my first thing is like, is it large-scale because she was an heiress, because she comes from a wealthy family, because she's a white woman? I'm just curious. I feel like low-key, a lot of people disappear and it doesn't set off a large-scale search. Fletcher was mother of 2 and teacher at St. Mary's Episcopal School in Memphis. That sounds like she was a decent person. Doesn't mention a husband, though, so I'm going to go ahead and think she's a single mother based on the way the article is written. You usually would reference a spouse, undoubtedly. She was also the granddaughter of the late Joseph Orgill III, a noted philanthropist who helped run the family-owned Memphis-based hardware supply firm Orgill, Inc. I've never heard of Orgill, Inc. personally. Anyways. But again, I've been through Memphis, never lived there. Memphis is not an impressive city, like for sure. Like you want to get out of there. When did Fletcher disappear? The woman's husband, okay, there you go. She's married. Richard Fletcher notified police his wife had not returned from her run by 7 a.m. Oh, she must have started early. And a man on a bike who was riding the same route as Fletcher was running found Eliza Fletcher's cell phone and a pair of Champion brand slides in the street. Man, this guy's kidnap game is tremendously weak because like obviously he must have just grabbed her and abducted her. I'm assuming he tossed her into a car, which you would have think you'd think that would have been mentioned already in this article, which is just terribly written. But anyways, the fact is her cell phone was either fallen during this scuffle or she tossed it out, perhaps to leave a clue. I don't know. Low key, it might have been smarter to hold on to it because there's GPS tracking that can occur with the cell phone. So just if you ever get kidnapped, maybe hold on to your cell phone, hide it in your butt cheeks. Well, I guess at some point your butt cheeks are about to get opened up. So put it in your shoe. Put it in your shoe. There you go. Leave it in your shoe. That's life-saving advice right there. Police reviewed surveillance footage from nearby earthquake research information. What? They reviewed surveillance footage from nearby earthquake research and information center? Curious. It showed a black GMC Terrain passing by and then waiting for Fletcher to run past. Okay, so this was premeditated right here. Okay. Quote, a male exited the black GMC Terrain, ran aggressively toward the victim. He was running aggressively in slides. See, that's what I'm talking about. You don't want to be kidnapping people wearing slides. And then forced the victim, Eliza Fletcher, into the passenger side of the vehicle. The affidavit read, during this abduction, there appeared to be a struggle. Yeah, well, duh. I mean, who gets okay, I give up. Take me, black guy. And further, I like how PC this is. It says a male exited. Come on now, just call it what it is. A black male exited. We need, this matters. We're describing the suspect. Police say the SUV was parked for about 4 minutes before the vehicle drove away. Yeah, I mean, that's probably when he gave her that pep talk. Like, bitch, if you do anything while I'm driving, I kill both of us. I'll drive this car straight into a goddamn tree, bitch. Just sit there and shut the fuck up while I'm driving you to this destination, which you won't make it out of. Probably gave her a pep talk similar to that one, which is why there was no struggle occurring. Yes. Now, let's go through these likes. I appreciate those who support the work. Keyshawn writes, Saint, I missed the SC podcast. Has it been discontinued? Also, thank you for all that you do, and please remember my name, Keyshawn. Indeed, and I believe I've seen the name before. The Saint City podcast has not been discontinued. I mean, again, the things that don't get supported tend to, get put on pause. So there's that. People haven't really supported that at a high level. So as a businessman, we always respond to markets. Joe Lacuto writes, just leaving tuition before a run. Peace to the Saints. Hey, be careful out there on that run and make sure you got some, you've been practicing your sprints. I think maybe if her sprint game was stronger, when she saw this nigga running up from behind, she could have just outran him. Not to say that black guys aren't fast runners, because they are. Solon writes, thank you for the news update. I can be ignorant to events when it comes to the news. No, we all can. That's why we do this. Thank you for the support. Stop Playing Trey writes, hey, Marquett, should you set aside money for taxes at the end of the year? Depends on the nature of your how you earn. If you earn as an independent contractor, you certainly should. If you earn as a business person, your accountant should be helping you with that. But you should have savings in general. So at the moment in which you find that you have back taxes, you can pull that from your savings. If you're an employee, you'll be paying your taxes involuntarily. So you don't have to worry about that. You're fat, right? How would you respond to someone that says you treat or view women as property when in reality you just don't want her body online without compensation? I hear you on that one. But when you say someone, the speaker matters. So if it's the woman that belongs to you, i.e. your girlfriend, wife, etc., well, that matters. If it's someone like someone you're not in a relationship with, they don't matter. I wouldn't even entertain it. I would just like probably smirk at them and just like walk away. You feel me? Or call security. Security! This motherfucker out of here. You dig? Anyways, carry on. Oh, yeah. And let me also acknowledge those who came in via Cash App. Shout out to Jamal, sends in tuition. Truly appreciate it. Mel sends in tuition, writes Peace of the Saints. Javier, or JVR writes Peace of the Saints. Heals in, comes in. I see he's prosperous. He's increased his contribution. Beautiful thing. Thank you very much for that support, Saints. And let's see if anyone came in via PayPal. Okay, no one via PayPal. All right, let us carry on. And thank you to those who have supported the work. Yes, so the SUV was parked for about 4 minutes before the vehicle drove off. After reviewing footage, investigators say that about 24 minutes before the abduction, surveillance footage captured the same vehicle in the area. Police say they believe Fletcher suffered serious injury during the violence of the abduction. Oh, okay. Well, what they believe doesn't matter. They don't know, but it's likely that she suffered an injury probably in that 4 minutes after he got her into the car. Probably might have knocked her unconscious so that he could have a peaceful car ride, so she's not trying to escape or anything like that. Who is Cleotha Abston? See, I like how USA Today has these headlines that are useful. Cleotha. I mean, this is a name that could be male or female. Ends in the A, right? In Spanish, the A is the feminine. The slides were sent to the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation for DNA testing, which was later found to match Abston in a national DNA database from a previous conviction. Uh-oh, we got a lifelong thug life. It's thug life. Abston was released from prison in November 2020 after serving 2 decades. See, that's one thing I don't like about the American legal system. The truth is that if you're giving someone low key over 5 years, you might as well just execute them 9 out of 9, because whatever they did that requires you to put them in prison for more than 5 years, they're going to be institutionalized. And if the crime is so serious that they need to be in prison for more than 5 years, then they probably need not come out of prison. You heard me? Anyways, this boy had been in jail for 2 decades. Good Lord. In that case, he kidnapped a Memphis lawyer. This man likes to kidnap. And the sad thing is, during that 2 decades, he didn't improve his kidnapping skills. It's a shame. That's why I always encourage you guys to have continuous improvement in life. You should always be trying to improve at your craft. And if your craft is kidnapping, you should be trying to be the best kidnapper you could possibly be. He kidnapped a Memphis lawyer who spent time working for the Innocence Project. Now, that's really sad, because the Innocence Project is an organization that I support. And this is an organization that basically frees individuals from prison who have been wrongly accused. And to me, to be sent to prison or jail is really one of the worst things you can experience. I'd rather death than spend more than 3 years in a cage surrounded by brain dead animals and then managed by brain dead animals. You dig? Abston was sentenced to 24 years in that case. You got 24 years for kidnapping? I mean, maybe if he sodomized the guy while he kidnapped him or something like that. But if he just kidnapped him and detained him and then released him, that sounds like a bit of a harsh sentence. What is sad is that they haven't explained why he was kidnapped. And this is the problem with journalism today, is that it's such a surface level thing. It does matter why people do things. That's what provides us understanding. Anyways, police say detectives began looking into what Abston had been doing in the days prior and after Fletcher's disappearance, found footage of him wearing the same slides at a Memphis cinema on Thursday. Now, we should know this boy is mentally ill because, number one, We all know the movies are freezing. Every time I go to the movies, it is absolutely colder than a Starbucks, and I always wear a jacket, and I'm still cold in there. Last movie I went to, which was recently, I wanted the movie to end because it was so cold. So if this man is wearing slides, got his toes exposed with no socks on in a movie, this guy's crazy. I mean, we should have known that. They should have arrested him as soon as he showed up to the movies in slides. Oh my goodness. Wow. That we should really find that the person who worked at the box office in that movie theater, because they could have prevented all of this. Anyways, so they found him at a cinema wearing slides. Good Lord. During the investigation, police also found that the terrain was registered to a woman who is not being named, as she has not been charged with a crime. Okay, so he's driving a female's car. I wondered, did he steal it, or is that was one of his pieces? Police questioned the owner of Majesty's cleaning service where Abston worked, and she verified he drove the terrain and also provided investigators with his cell phone number. Wow, I wonder, did she know that he was an ex-felon who did 20 in the pen? The number was used to determine where Abston was at the time of Fletcher's abduction, confirming that he was in the area at the time. That's poor writing. It was not the phone number that determines where he was. It was the cellular phone and the triangulation of the cellular phone service, which lets you know that we're all being tracked on a regular basis if you have a cellular phone with you. What led to Abston's arrest? U.S. Marshals found that the vehicle parked at the address listed on an incident report from Thursday. Oh, they found the vehicle parked at the address listed on an incident report from Thursday, along with confirming the car from the license plate. Surveillance footage also showed the car to have, quote, noticeable damage to the rear passenger side tail light. Long story short, they tracked him on video cameras. Okay, got it. When law enforcement officials tried to arrest Abston, who was in the terrain at the time, they say he attempted to drive away but ended up being taken into custody. I don't blame him. I mean, you already in the whip. You might as well try to go on an O.J. Simpson high-speed chase, just have a little bit of fun before you go down, because you killed a white woman in the South. Is Memphis the South? I feel like if it ain't the South, it should be the South, because they have strong accents over there. And to me, that is mostly the definition of the South. Another woman interviewed by police say that she saw Abston outside the home of his brother, Mario Abston. I know his brother's like, damn, don't bring me up, man. This man kidnapping white women, I ain't got nothing to do with that. Quit putting my name in the article. She told investigators Cleotha Abston did not live there, but she saw Cleotha Abston cleaning the interior of the GMC terrain with floor cleaner and stated that he was behaving oddly. Well, you tend to be a little bit shaken up after you kidnap and kill a white woman. Not saying that from experience, just what I've heard and what I've seen on Forensic Files. The woman and Abston's brother both told investigators they saw Abston cleaning his clothes in the house sink. Man, if this dude don't get a washing machine, oh my goodness. I wonder what he was thinking about his slides. Did he consider going back to identify one of his slides and kind of like take it with him? You would think 20 years of reflection in the prison would have helped him. But that's my whole point, is that if someone's done something bad enough to warrant more than 5 years in prison, they're probably not about to be reformed. And the individuals who commit sex crimes, particularly those of pedophilia, shout out Sinful with P, they should be executed just straight out. And when we're talking about those who've committed financial crimes, we're talking about on the order of drug dealing and things of the like. Free the hustlers, man. Free the hustlers. You heard me? Don't give them more than 5 years. They just trying to make $1. They're businessmen, essentially. Only reason a lot of those things are illegal is because it's hard for the government to take their cut of it. Anyways, Mario Abston was also arrested Sunday on unrelated drug charges, but has not been charged in relation to Fletcher's disappearance. Police said he is not believed to be involved with Fletcher's abduction. Now, I know Mario's doubly angry because he's thinking, damn, bro, you didn't have the police run in my spot. You heard me? I'm over here trying to cook up the soft and turn it to the hard. You heard me? I'm chefing. I'm whipping the wrist. I'm mixing the quinine with the H. I'm doing it all. And you didn't have these boys running my trap house because something you did. This could have been a perfectly good trap house, and you didn't went ahead and knocked the hustle. I know he mattered in a bitch right now. There's nothing worse than catching a case that you did not deserve. Can the church say amen, hallelujah on that one? Ain't nothing worse than that. Good Lord, it's a pity. It's a pity. Boy, oh boy. Let's see who's been supporting the work. Via PayPal, we have Rick. He writes, peace to the Saints, tuition for yesterday's live player stories and game lessons. Hey, look, if you're a member at patreon.com/the Saint in the Center, yesterday I did a 2-hour live just for the members only and went through some serious game and serious reflection over the last 30 or so days. So you're going to want to check that out if you're a member. And if you're not a member, now's a great time to become one because you get the whole month. And that gives you more value for your dollar. Rick comes right back on PayPal. He writes, "Peace to the Saints tuition. I was also wondering about the Saint City podcast, but you just answered why. Unfortunate, but I get it. Indeed. I think people don't realize that, when you have a channel of our size and you're, bringing on 3 to 5 girls every week, there's so many expenses like alcohol, for example. What we earn in super chats really doesn't even cover the cost of like one bottle. And these girls be guzzling that Casamigos like it ain't nothing. So, we've always been losing money. And I think people kind of look at things, especially if they're not real men, meaning they don't do business. They take things for free and for granted and forget that everything has costs. So, but I appreciate those of you who support the work. Shout out to the real ones, you dig. Carrying on. Via Cash App, we have Pierre. He writes, "Love the glasses, Marquett. Piece of the Saints tuition. Appreciate that." Now for our next piece of news. This one is particularly interesting because it's quite unusual. You know that you have a declining democracy when people begin to persecute their political enemies, especially when they do it so publicly. So this is a piece about the Donald, and I've been hearing about what's going on. And truth be told, I don't even really understand it. So maybe this might shed some light on it for all of us. This article is by the New York Times. It's called "Deeply Problematic. Experts Question the Judge's Intervention in Trump Inquiry." A ruling by a judge appointed by former Donald J. Trump. Hey, shout out to Trump. He appointed the judge and now it's coming in handy. I see you. Surprise specialists and could slow the documents investigation. Well, what is Trump being investigated for? That I truly don't understand. A federal judge's extraordinary decision on Monday to interject in the criminal investigation into former President Donald Trump's hoarding of sensitive government documents at his Florida residence showed unusual solicitude to him. Okay, so here's the thing. I guess Trump is being investigated because he had classified documents at his personal residence. Oh no. You see, it's basically saying there's an issue with where the documents were located, it appears, not an issue with him having the documents, for he was granted permission as being the chief of state. Now, here's the issue. I find it strange that the same Democrats in office haven't persecuted Hillary Clinton for having classified information on her cell phone and having her emails, which were also shared with the wrong persons who didn't have proper clearance. It's curious. And also, when the FBI was going to look into that information, her and her staffers started smashing the cell phones with hammers, trying to destroy them so that they couldn't pull off any information, which clearly is an attempt to hide evidence. But for some reason, they weren't prosecuted for that. I say all this to say to you that there is no such thing as law. There's no such thing as government. This is basically a gang. Yes, a gang on the order of which you would understand the Crips, the Bloods, MS-13, Latin Kings, all that good stuff. It's an organized gang, a highly organized gang that has monopolized violence within this political territory, and it has convinced you that it has some moral standing. When governments lose moral standing, then we start to realize that they're gangs. But for the time being, people kind of think the American government has some moral standing, even though a lot of things they do don't quite make sense. You'll start to see increasingly. Like, for example, the fact that we're still at war in Syria and we never talk about it, but we just recently dropped some bombs on the Syrians. And yes, we're probably talking about men, women, and children. But for some reason, we keep talking about the war in Ukraine as though that's so bad. Now, why are we getting so much news about a war America's not even fighting in? But the war we are fighting in Syria, the news won't talk about it. Oh, that seems right to you. Doesn't seem quite right to me. Back to the Trump news. Basically, this whole article is a propaganda piece saying that the judge is intervening on Trump's behalf. Understood. And it's saying that Trump had, classified documents at his house. Yeah. Well, if I had a nice estate like Trump does, and I, was not as comfortable at the White House. I prefer to be at my spot. Yeah, I'm going to take my documents with me and I'm going to conduct my business at my house. Yes, done. Big deal. Is it illegal? If it's illegal, let's prosecute him according to the law, but let's apply the law equally. And let's also go get Hillary Clinton. You dig? And let's get Hunter Biden, which is Joe Biden's son. You know, the crackhead guy who uses prostitutes and records it on video and shows the whole world and still doesn't get in trouble for doing things that have been documented as illegal. Yeah, okay. So I say that all to say, F the law. F the law. Only follow Sasson law, you dig? Carrying on. Next piece of news. We have, this one is a curious one. The UK Prime Minister is Liz Truss. Yes, that's right, a woman. Another indication of a declining Western society. And she defeated a fellow named Rishi Sunak. I took a photo, looked at a photo. I mean, it looks like he could be, perhaps of Indian ancestry, Pakistani, something like that, somewhere in that region, perhaps. And I find that to be, quite ironic because these are the folks that the British used to colonize. Had he become prime minister, that'd be quite a turn of fortune to see the former colonized running the colony, right? That'd have been crazy. But I think it is as crazy to see Liz Truss, a woman, as the prime minister. She's following Boris Johnson. And the truth is, this is a major sign of an ailing civilization. You might say, well, what about Margaret Thatcher? Yeah, that was a sign too. Not to say that she's not talented, but the truth is, anytime we find a talented woman, there's always a more talented man. And we know this because of the following. When you look at the distribution of IQ, intelligence, you find that on average, women may be brighter, but on the extremes, men are showing up higher in higher rates. So, for example, yes, there are more men who might suffer from intellectual delay. And then there are also more men who are on the genius level, which is to say there's always a higher number of men who are more intelligent and more capable. And of course, we know in terms of making rational decisions or performing under pressure, men outperform women. It's not even comparable, and the science validates all of this. I say this to say, if your country is run by a woman, your country is probably on its way down, point blank, period. And I really feel like that. Yeah, anyways. Truss's victory was announced in Parliament, and she will officially take her post tomorrow. Well, shout out to her. Congratulations to her. Let's see. The former Foreign Secretary and International Trade Secretary won comfortably with 57%, or 81,000 of the Conservative Party members voting for her. Now, here's the funny thing. How conservative can you really be? Do we even know the meaning of the word conservative? Base word conserve. Conserve what? The past, the tradition. Is it traditional for women to lead men? No, that is not traditional at all in no successful society ever. And I would like to remind you, I'm not saying women shouldn't lead anything. There are a great many women who are superior to you and I in many different ways. But the truth is, the highest office in a country certainly should not be held by a woman. Oh, wow. Anyway, shout out to Liz. And shout out to Rishi for even being mentioned and having a chance. That is very good. Now on to news from Apple. Yes, it's that company that does really well with aesthetic design, makes things look beautiful, but has no ability to innovate for the most part. Yes, Apple, the company that was run by Steve Jobs and now is run by who the hell knows and who cares. Okay, what to expect at Apple's, quote, far out iPhone 14 event? Well, long story short, there's a lot of speculation in this article, so it's not even worth reading. And the truth is, any advancement that Apple comes out with probably has already been created in the world by another technology company that is less known and isn't as good at marketing. So I'm sure Apple's just going to steal a bunch of stuff and put it in a beautiful white casing and sell it to you for 3 times as much as whoever invented it was selling it. Long story short, iPhone 14 will be here soon. Problem is, there won't be any innovation in that phone. And we've noticed that Apple really hasn't innovated in quite a while, which is why I still have an iPhone 12 Max Pro, I think it's called. And I'm a technologist. So I kind of pride myself on having the latest and greatest, but it turns out Apple ain't got the greatest. Now, let me tell you one funny thing about you as a consumer and how goofy you've become. Consider the Apple Watch. Once Apple reached significant market penetration with their iPhone, meaning they sold it to pretty much everyone who's going to buy it, Then they said, well, how can we sell you more things? They create an Apple Watch. What is an Apple Watch? It's an iPhone on your wrist. So you got an iPhone in your pocket. Now you got one on your wrist. Ooh, I can look at my text messages on a screen that's far too small to conveniently see it. Then I can respond to a text message from my wrist on a screen that's far too small to comfortably type it. This is cool. Yes, that's right. You're probably an idiot. I had one too. I got it for free, though. It was a gift. So there you go. iPhone 14 is coming out. Next piece of news. And let me acknowledge those who support the work. May I acknowledge Marcos, who writes, Peace to the Saints. It's been a beautiful thing to see the growth of the Assassin in the past 2 years. Let's keep growing as individuals and as an organization. True story. Armand writes, Tuition. Truly appreciate that. May I acknowledge Craig. He writes, Peace to the Saints, member only live. Indeed, he must have enjoyed that. A lot of people did. 2 hours of pure game, just showing love to the members. You dig? Hector comes in via PayPal. He writes, Peace to the Saints. My girl asked me to buy her something and got mad when I said no. Shout out to you. After questioning, I learned her previous boyfriends would buy her things she asked for. I would think that's a sign she's got to go. What do you think? Is it a moment for her to learn? I think it's very bold for a female to ask you for anything. You see, if you saw my live yesterday, the members only live, and I recommend you watch it, because in that live, I actually go through talking about a woman who offered tremendous value to my life. And you see, I wasn't as familiar with her as to be boyfriend and girlfriend, number one. And then number two, she offered me so much value. And then when I tried to return some of that value to her, she said, no, it's not necessary. It was out of the kindness of her heart. For someone to demand something of you, especially something material, is a very low base thing. This suggests that she has the makings of a gold digger. And the sad reality is many women in our day are some form of prostitute, whether they know it or not. Long story short, that's a major red flag. Hector writes in an additional PayPal, he writes, Peace to the Saints Tuition. Thank you for doing these current events breakdown. It is truly a pleasure, and thank you for supporting them. May I encourage everyone who comes in via PayPal to use the friends and family method. Shout out to one of the Saints who just joined as a member at patreon.com/the Saint in the Center. Simeon comes in with tuition. Truly appreciate that. Subadai writes, Peace to the Saints, tuition for the news. And indeed, the news is absolutely necessary. And I do my best to make it entertaining, because sometimes you find that history and the news seem boring when really they should be points of fascination. Chris comes in with tuition, writes, Peace to the Saints. He writes, right, I saw that. Amazing. Okay, very good. He was able to check that out. Okay, so here's a funny piece of news. Funny to me, I suppose. We have another fight from Jake Paul. And it's funny because Jake Paul is clearly trying to not fight anyone who can fight. We know this because he's either fighting a no name, or he's fighting someone who has a name, but they're not a boxer, and he's boxing them. So he's saying, hey, Anderson Silva, I know you're not a boxer, but I would like to box you in a sport where you don't have a significant background. Okay. And we know that MMA fighters have historically not been very good at the sweet science. And we've seen this with Conor McGregor, for example. Floyd completely destroyed him. And you can even see that Floyd was going easy on him if you're familiar with Floyd at all, or even familiar with the sweet science. And not only did Conor McGregor lose in a very clear fashion, he actually looked bad and looked pathetic. In fact, I'm very confident that I could beat Conor McGregor in a boxing match. And I'm not a professional boxer. That's how bad his boxing skills were. Now, in MMA, he probably skinned me alive. But truth be told, I don't really want to put on spandex shorts and roll around with men any damn ways. Not saying it's not a beautiful combat sport. It really is. But I just don't want to roll around in biker shorts with nut to nut with a guy. It's just not my preference. But anyways, we have Jake Paul as making a mockery again of the sweet science, and he's boxing UFC legend Anderson Silva, who clearly is going to lose and is clearly over the hill. And yes, Anderson Silva is indeed 47 years old, which is the opposite of young. Now, Jake Paul has found his next opponent, and he's a combat sports luminary. The YouTuber turned prize fighter, he ain't a prize fighter. He's just a YouTuber who's boxing. He's not a prize fighter till he really fights somebody. By the way, while I'm mentioning boxers who are not really boxers, shout out to Ryan Garcia. You dig? Anyways, Anderson Silva is going to box him on October 29th in Phoenix. Oh, that's super weak. Who the hell goes to Phoenix? I would have pulled up if it was in Vegas. Paul's Most Valuable Promotions announced this on Tuesday. He's going to fight at 187 pounds, and that's a killer weight. You feel me? Like at 187 pounds, that's when you get the guys who are athletes. These are pretty much guys who could do any sport on earth because they're full-size men. Silva, age 47, is one of the greatest champions in UFC history, which basically means he's been putting tremendous wear and tear on his body for many years, and he's also 47. Notice they didn't mention the age of Jake Paul because they don't want you to compare those and realize that this is a total fraud. Blah, blah, blah. This article is not worth even reading. And I'm looking at a photo of Anderson Silva, and his body like does not look like, nah. Yeah, I'm done here. Anyways, next piece of news. So now you know Jake Paul is about to set up another bank robbery, essentially. I don't know what fools would go see that fight. Personally, I'd go if I got free tickets. And if it was in Vegas, I would have free tickets. But I damn sure wouldn't go to Phoenix. So I don't know if they've done some marketing and figured out that he has a large fan base over in Phoenix. But hey, shout out to Jake Paul for finding a way to earn money in the easiest way possible by doing essentially nothing. Shout out to Daniel. He writes, tuition, great content as always. Peace to the saints. And Daniel also is coming out with, you guys see me with these gold chains on. He has one with Nipsey Hussle on it. He has one with the Janus logo on it. You dig, represent the assassin. And he's doing a very limited run. There'll be 20 of each piece. So when they come out, you better get them ASAP because I trust they'll probably sell out within 24 hours. Here's another interesting piece of news, which I think I'll probably do a separate live on. It depends. I'll give you guys a little bit of time. Let's see if you guys can convince me. I'm either going to do a separate live on this piece of news or I'll go in right now. Give you guys a little bit of time. May I acknowledge Ricardo comes on with tuition, writes peace to the saints. He writes, isn't Ryan Garcia 24-0? Yeah, that's cute. But when you're 24-0 and you've only fought bums, no one's impressed with you. You see, he's 24-0. He's a young man. I've spent some time with him at Resorts World. Him and Andy Ruiz. And shout out to Andy Ruiz, who's a real boxer and actually fights people who are competitive. Andy Ruiz just sat down Luis Ortiz, which is quite respectable because Luis Ortiz, aka King Kong, he fights real boxers. You see, he fought Deontay Wilder and looked pretty good. I was actually at that fight when Luis Ortiz fought Deontay Wilder. I was there, floor seats, you dig? It's a great fight. Very exciting. But anyways, Ryan Garcia, he's 24-0, but against who? You see, you too could be 24-0 when you fight people who are too old or unskilled or, they're doing things to pad their record. Anyways, looks like we need to go ahead and end this live. It's been a pleasure to have this time to fellowship with you. To those of you who supported the work, I really do appreciate that. Speaks well of you. Shout out to those men who pay what they owe. Until next time.